Hey there, it's Christian from Sony Gaming Network, and this is a little drink with Destiny. I thought I'd sit down in the lounge today and crack out the posh camera, just because I could. And what I wanted to have a little chat about today was how this feeling of your deck is never quite complete. And what I mean by that is, for any of you guys who are deck builders, or have been trying to put together decks and test them for things like store champs, or even just testing things out at game night kits. As I test decks and I get to a build and I think, oh, this build's working, this feels really good, there's almost invariably still a bunch of cards that I haven't included that I think, oh, but that card could work really well in that deck. And so this is one of the great joys, I think, about CCGs, is it probably never ever to anybody really feels like, and I'd almost say if you do feel this, then it might be a problem, that I just can't make this deck any better. Like there just aren't any other cards that I could put in that would make this deck better. And I think it's really exciting that we're at that point when there is only 2 sets out. I'm making this, and this is during Spirit of Rebellion. Now, that doesn't mean, of course, that every deck you build is going to be brilliant and is going to challenge at the top of the meta. But I think what it does mean is that there is an exciting pool of cards, and there are lots of decks that you can put together that are good, that are really good. And yet, because we've only got this 30 card limit, which I think is a really great choice, I'm really pleased that they did 30 cards and not even 40 cards. Because for us deck builders, it kind of feels like, wow, it's really hard to get an absolutely optimal build, because it's so difficult to include all the cards that you want to include in it. So for example, I built, if you were watching it, I built some mono blue recently, and I did the Asajj and 2 Royal Guard. Now the thing is with something like Asajj 2 Royal Guard, I think it's a cool pairing, it's a cool setup, and that deck was able to do lots of really cool things. Now the difficulty is, of course, that I mostly play competitive, as I'm sure many of you watching this will do as well. And therefore, if a deck doesn't really cut it, if it's not at least a tier 2, then we tend to not play it for very long, and we poo-poo it. But as I look back over that deck, I was just the other day, I was looking through the deck list and thinking, oh, this is a fun deck list. There is lots of powerful cards in here. And then look at all these other powerful cards that I could be including and that I haven't included. And I think that that's a feeling that betrays that this is a good game, that there are lots of good cards that we like to play, and I think it also helps us to keep coming back for more, because if you are playing with your 30 cards and you play a game and it's really close and you lose by small margins in the match, and you just think, do you know what, if I'd just not taken that card, a singleton of that, and I'd had 2 copies of this particular upgrade, that would have made all the difference. Do you know what, I'm going to go back, I'm going to change that up. And I think, actually, if I put 2 cards of that in, well, then I probably should play this card as well. Oh, what am I going to cut for that? And you can see this lovely little rabbit hole that you end up going down, and then you're running through the Warren, exploring all of these other little cards you could suddenly now put in because you made that one change. And I think that shows that there is some great design in this game. There is some there is a fantastic set of cards for us to play with, and so it's really just something I've been musing on, and maybe you guys have sort of experienced that too. That feeling of my deck's never quite tweaked to where I want it to be. My deck is never really finished, and I do feel like that with probably every deck list I've ever sort of published as well. Whenever I do a deck tech video, whenever I stick something up on SW Destiny DB, it always still feels like a work in progress. I might have made 5 changes to that deck after playing 20 games. I might have done 5 lots of changes to that deck after playing 20 games. And yet, it still feels like, oh, I could change this and I could change that. And then, of course, most decks you build with flex slots in. And those are those cards that are the real meta-dependent cards. It's the kind of cards where, you know, you say, right, well, I might include, oh, I don't know, an Intimidate or something like that, because I know that my meta has a lot more shields in. And these days, if you're playing blue, you probably wouldn't play Intimidate because you're going to be using Vibroknife, I'd imagine. But you can see that there's always going to be those flex slots in your deck, I think, in the vast majority of decks. And those are the ones that naturally are going to be, oh, what am I going to take? Do I think I'm going to see lots of this deck, or do I think I'm going to see lots of that deck? And this can further compound that feeling of, oh, this deck's never quite finished and never quite right. I might actually say in that instance, look, your deck probably is. It's probably maybe very tested. And if you've just got those 3, 4, 5 slots that are flexible that you can adjust up for your meta, I'd say that's really healthy. That's a good place for your deck build to be in. And I think it's a good practice to get into the habit of that. Every deck list that you look at, even if you're just a net deck and you just download and you have a look, I'd be identifying cards in whatever you download in that net deck to say, well, that's probably a flex one. I don't think that's really essential to the whole deck because of this, and this. You know, maybe listen to what the deck creator has said in the deck tech video or their blurb on SW Destiny DB on the notes, but try and identify, well, what are the flex slots? Because in your meta, it could be very different to the one that the deck creator has built in. And that's part of the fun, that's part of the excitement, and again is what will keep you coming back to tweak and to change and to test. Anyway, there's just a few thoughts. I've got store champs coming up, so I'm doing lots of that sort of thing and tweaking and feeling like, oh, this deck's nearly there, it's not quite there, need to change this up. Oh wow, it's finished. No, it's not, definitely, because I play another game and it doesn't do very well against something else. This is the fun of deck building and preparing for tournaments and so on. Anyway, until next time, keep enjoying your Destiny.